baby boos out there. I am your goddess Nesca, here with another fan-requested video. We're gonna be watching some art. Nesca does love art.
Green frog with progressively fancier garlic bulbs on top.
Like the Bulbasaur.
Hey folks, my name is Adam and I like to make tiny nerdy things, and I'm nothing if not frustratingly susceptible to peer pressure, so here we are, and here I am, making a series of frogs with progressively fancier garlic bulbs on top. Or rather, I guess we're taking a series of frogs and making progressively less fancy bulbs, since I'm starting with Venusaur in order to better approximate the size of the smaller evolutions.
Yes, that's really smart. You start with a bigger Pokemon first, that way you can get a good size comparison going. Also, what he did there is something that is very common in clay, to make it so it's lighter, so it's not super heavy, but you use foil to wrap around with clay, instead of just the whole thing being a solid piece of clay. I think it also helps with the structure to not crack as easy, because I'm going to assume this is probably baking clay. So when you're done molding and creating, you stick it in the oven or a kiln, and then you heat it up and it hardens. And sometimes, if you're not careful, the clay can crack and make... well, it can break if you're not careful with how you make stuff. The voice sounds like Miku. Yeah, it did. Oh, don't tell me my headphones are dying.
Now, knowing my propensity for grossly underestimating scale, I knew that if I started with the Bulbasaur and worked my way up, then Venusaur would likely end up being only slightly smaller than a common house cat. That being said, Venusaur is a pretty chunky boy to begin with, which is why I'm spending an awful lot of time making sure his leg rolls are looking extra thick. I also really wanted to give him a bit of action in his pose, but he's an oversized stumpy-legged toad with a colorful palm tree sprouting out his spine, which means I didn't have a whole lot of room in terms of movement, so I made him lean ever so slightly to the side. Then once I've inserted a trio of claws into claw-appropriate divots, I can get to adding the plethora of warty protuberances that adorn this soon-to-be blue beauty.
Nesca really does enjoy sculpting. It is Nesca's not as good at sculpting as like someone like to his level. Like, I've seen some like Instagram videos of someone actually sculpting like full-on figures, like just like the most detailed, beautiful figures I've ever seen, made of clay and sculpt. Is so good. Nesca was gonna try to make the Skybrows coins with clay first, but then I'm like, it might be a little too small. And then someone gave me the idea of this type of foam to use, so I might be doing more of a carving base with them whenever I get time. I still have so many to draw. The Skybrows universe is growing too much.
I'll drill a couple holes in the front of the body so that I can stick a couple wires in place so I can stick the upper half of his head on said wires.
Oh, yeah. Make sure whenever you're sculpting, I don't think you want to use wood, because I feel like I probably would use like something like toothpicks, but when you cook it, that might cause a fire. 50-50. No, I don't. Oh, it would make the wood weak. That's what, I believe. Yeah. So you want to use metal rods in your sculptures. That's why they use the tin foil, because it's light, and it's something that can be put in an oven. I'm going home for lunch. Oh, take care. Take care, Dimitri. Thank you so much for stopping by. Always use the wires he uses. Like, I'm not sure if there's like a specific brand that you need or a specific type. But yeah.
And once I've blended that into the body, I can add his bottom jaw, give him a stiff upper lip, and then thicken up his formidable brow. Then an oversized lump of clay gets stuffed in his mouth to act as his tongue, and I can add a couple of ears.
Venusaur. That makes sense.
I've pre-baked a set of teeth that get stuck all up into his gums, then I'll use a circle cutter to carve out his eyes, round them out, add some bags underneath, and some overly dramatic eyebrows, and he's ready to be painted. Yeah, you heard that right. He's already getting painted. I know it's going to be a real pain in the ass trying to get to his body once I've got his big palm fronds in place, so before I do anything else, I want to at least get his body painted blue. I've done this a few times before, and people have asked if it's okay to paint and continue adding clay after, and it most certainly is.
Probably. I did not know that.
I mean,
probably. I don't know about that. I guess it depends on what kind of paint you're using. Then maybe it is, because you're going to have to stick him back in the, unless you're using a different kind of clay, but you're going to have to stick them back in the oven or kiln or whatever to heat them up again if you're putting more clay on top of it. Or if you're going to have that clay separated and then heat it and then put it on him afterwards and then glue it on and stuff. But I don't feel like you can put a thing... Like, I don't think you want to continuously reheat clay that's already been heat treated, because it messes with the coloration, I feel. Maybe I'll still have time to return to the stream. Alright, I will be here for probably quite a bit. I want to say at least till midnight, but who knows?
Why wouldn't it be? I don't know, I've never had any issues, and if you can't trust a random faceless stranger on the internet, then who can you trust? Otherwise, once the paint's dried, I'll drill 4 equal matching holes in his back so I can stick 4 equal lengths of wire in. These will be the stems and supports for the palm fronds, so I'll bend them into appropriately palm frondy shapes.
Ooh.
To make the leaves, I've rolled out a fairly thin sheet of clay, which I'll lay out on a plastic bag, then cut into a more leafy shape.
So in this case, he's using already colored clay for the leaves, so that's interesting. Yeah.
By making it on the plastic bag, I can add a bit of surface detail without worrying about pressing the clay into the mat and then ripping it up when I peel it off.
Yep. That's a good strategy right there. You should always have like a silicone mat, or in this case, plastic wrap under the surface when you're working on clay, if you're using your table to do what he was doing with pressing and stuff, because otherwise the clay will get stuck, and then when you try to peel it up, it'll warp it a little bit, so it takes away some of your work that you did. It's noon in my place. Yeah. I got... Oh, well, it's 10 p.m. here.
Then I can press it into place on my pre-made stem wires, press it down in the middle, then go about making it look a little less flat before adding the other 3 leaves. Now you won't see the undersides, but I'm also making a bit of green clay underneath to cover up any of the exposed wire.
Yeah.
Finally, once they've been baked in the oven, to lock them in place, I'll paint them in a few varying shades of greens, blending lighter colors from the center out before hitting all the edges with a very light green dry brush.
I'm gonna say in this case, since that clay is so thin, it probably was okay to rebake the whole thing again, unless he might have pulled them out of the Venusaur and baked them separately. I'm hoping he does not place the Venusaur in the oven again, because, like I said, I'm not sure like what quality of paint he's using, as well as I don't think it's a good idea to constantly reheat something in the oven that's already been cured. I could be wrong. He seems to know what he's doing, but this is just from my experience that I know. It also will probably lead to more risk of the sculpture cracking if you overbake it.
I also figured it made sense to finish the rest of the painting, since it'll only get more unwieldy as I add the taller sections of the tree, so I made sure to paint his mouth, tongue, teeth, toes, and eyes before moving on. As always, I'll spend a little bit more time making sure the eyes look right, and then I'll give them a thin coat of UV resin, but only once I've finished everything else, since UV resin in the oven aren't generally compatible.
Okay, at least he's smart there. Yeah, you do not want anything with resin to go in an oven. So good, good. I'm glad he's smart there. UV resin plus oven is a no-no. That's what Ahmed calls future admin problems. Future problems. But yeah, Nesca likes to coat any kind of sculpting stuff I do with resin because it'll help keep it from ever getting, like, it'll keep it strong and keep it from falling apart because resin's really good. Yeah. Temperature outside is negative 30 C. Yeah, it's always cold in Russia, isn't it? We're actually expecting snow here where I'm at on the weekend.
Otherwise, with all the painting out of the way, it's time to get started on that aforementioned tree. Now, I'm no botanist, and the leaves leave me a little confused, but I'm pretty sure that this chunky blue boy is sporting a palm tree on his back, so that's what I'm gonna make.
Yeah. Yeah, I would call it a palm
To make
tree.
said palm tree, I've rolled out a cocktail sausage's worth of brown clay, then layered on a few spiky strips facing upwards. A few tweaks.
Actually, if based on how the flower looks on the Venusaur, I think it's meant to be one of those Amazon like what would it be called? It's this type of flower that blooms every so often and it smells like a corpse. I think it's called a corpse flower, maybe. I think that's the type of flower it's supposed to be. Maybe mixed with a palm tree. Like it's a flower mixed with a palm tree, I think.
Later, and I can jam this onto his back. Once it's been baked, it gets a touch-up coat of various brown highlights before moving on to the big pink palm fronds. These are pink, and I
am very much hoping that he pulled it out and then baked it, because definitely... Oh, actually, I think I might see... Where's my mouse? I think I might see a little heat damage right here, perhaps, unless it's just shading, but if in my, from what I can see, I see like a little bit of brown right here on this leaf. So yeah, definitely I don't think it's a wise idea to multiply heat up this thinner clay, because I'm pretty sure this one took a little bit longer to cook. So I'm hoping he pried it off first.
don't have pink clay. I do, however, have red and white clay.
Yeah.
Now with my newly created color, I can squish out a flat sheet of pink clay, then using a perfectly sized plastic soup cup, I can get to making the tops of the tree.
Yeah.
I'll start by cutting out 6 roughly equally sized wedges, then chopping out the center so that it should fit on the tree.
Yeah.
Then I'll work my way around the edge, adding little nicks and cuts to the tips before moving a little bit of width from each of the leaves.
Yeah. A few fun fact with clay: if you don't have the color you need, you can just combine colors as long as you know like what colors you can put together to make a new color. All you have to do is just knead it all together and it'll start changing color. I do love that aspect when it comes to colored clay.
Then I'll peel these off the sheet and drape them over a rolling pin and then blast them with a heat gun before throwing them into the oven to cure.
I never thought of using a heat gun on clay before. Huh. That's a fascinating idea. Like, anytime I try to make a clay sculpture where it needs like a curve or something, I just try to like use like a, what's it called? A little foil ball, and then I heat it in the oven where it's on the ball to keep that round shape I'm wanting. But I never thought of using a heat gun before. Of course, Nesca doesn't think she owns a heat gun anymore. The last 2 heat guns Nesca had, I think, are all broken. Oh. The flower you're thinking of is called rainforest corpse flower. Yeah, I think that's some of the inspiration on Venusaur's plant on his back. It's a combination of that flower as well as a palm tree, maybe. That's so cold because I live in the center of Siberia. Sheesh! Damn, be careful. Oh, are you like... Truckerman showed me like a picture that in Russia there was like a freaking huge mountain of snow that covered a whole city. I hope you don't live around there. People were, I'm guessing, oh man. Definitely strong moves. Definitely strong moves there in Russia. Sheesh. Looking, need to cook food. Oh god, don't talk about food. Nesca is living off of a couple of bites of SpaghettiOs, actually. Damn, bro. You live in the gulag. Oh.
I'll give the edges a nice light pink highlight, then paint on all those little white shapes. Finally, these get glued in place around the top of the tree, and I can finish it off by crowning this sculpture the goodest blue boy ever. Which means we're 1 down and 2 to go.
Oh, since you used the heat gun, I'm guessing that was a quick cook for the clay? Huh. I've never thought of doing that before. Interesting. Because that's good, because I was like, when I was hearing that he was gluing them down, I was like, oh, you better not be sticking that back in the oven. Howdy, Mashal. Welcome, welcome. Not that far from Lake Bululu. Words. I do not know what is the, what's the word I'm looking for? Landscaping? Nesca not smart, okay? Nesca very not smart.
Both Bulbasaur and Ivysaur will be birthed from the same gray clay zygote, but with a slightly off-center separation, leading to one being ever so slightly larger.
Neo. Bulbasaur and Ivysaur.
I'll start with the smaller of the two, which is, of course, Bulbasaur. Now I've squeezed a little ball of clay onto a slightly less little oval that is his body, then carved some lines into it so that I'm left with a slightly wrinkly looking peanut. Then a quick Joker-inspired smile, a reshaping of the lips, and I can give him a big adorable set of eyes. Then I'll poke a couple quick breathing holes into the front, slap on some ears, then add some big chunky sausage legs.
Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur.
Then I'll reshape and wrinkle them up until they look like overstuffed yoga pants doing downward facing dog, then stick his own set of teeny tiny talons into his toes. Then it's into the oven with him, and I can give him his trademark greenish blue hue. Or rather, I can struggle to get the color right and give him his trademark whatever the hell this color is. I don't know, mixing colors is my kryptonite. Fortunately, once the...
Yeah, some colors are definitely hard to get correct here. Like, I'm still on like a weird trying to figure out the color of Sephiroth's eyes. They're supposed to be a green, but I swear they're like a shade of a blue-green. Not just green.
The paint had dried, I'd added his plethora of little colored shapes, and he wasn't just looking good, he was looking good enough. Which means I could paint his eyes, and given that his eyes take up roughly 35% of his face, I think as long as they look good, I can get away with a lot when it comes to his body color. Now,
yeah, I was thinking the color looked a little off to me too. Maybe he should have made him shiny, make it a little harder or funner or something. Is the deepest lake in the world. Ooh, facts. Thank you. I did not know this. Nesca barely knows all the locations and dibbles and stuff with the United States. Nesca not smart. Yeah. Nesca tries. Yeah. Nesca's brains are in her boobs.
To make his vines, I've double wound the smallest wire I have, then rolled out an extra long, extra thin green wormy dealy, which I then wound around the tiny aluminium helix. Once all the wire was covered, I drilled a couple holes into Bulbasaur's back, stuck the vines in, and then bent them into shape.
Oh, he's giving him Vine Whip. Cool. Oh, that's fun.
Of course, what's a Bulbasaur without his bulb? To make the bulb, I've rolled out a little ball of green clay, then pinched the tip so it's slightly bulbous before using a blade to cut straight lines across the top of the bulb to make each of the sections. Then I'll press those sharp lines in with a soft silicone shaper to soften the curve, carve out the section of the top where the bulb is opening, bend the bulb tips back before finally attaching it to Bulbasaur's back.
Yeah, pretty.
Last but not least, I'll top the tips of the whips with pink clay, then cover said pink tips with light green leaves before finally moving on to Ivysaur.
Huh. I never thought that the vines were ever open. I thought they were just little kissies. Little kissies. But that's an interesting design element there. Hello, welcome. I'm enjoying this video, but Bulbasaur is my favorite. Oh, yay! Is he doing your Bulbasaur justice? I think it looks really cool.
Now, Ivysaur, as much as I love him, really is the perfect in-between evolution of Bulbasaur and Venusaur, which is great since it fits the frog with the garlic turning into a toad carrying a tree on his back motif to a T. However, when it comes to adding interesting commentary and breaking down the intricacies of the sculpture, let's face it, you just watched me make a bigger version of him, followed by a smaller version of him.
Yeah.
Unless you skip to this part, in which case, shame on you. However, if you did just show up, then oh boy, have I got something to show you. First off, I made an oddly shaped peanut, then gave it a mouth, some teeth, some eyes, some ears, and attached 4 tiny sausage limbs, complete with teeny tiny toe talons, before eventually painting the entire thing blue. Which leads us to where we are now.
Yeah, that's something interesting, if I remember. So Bulbasaur, when he starts, he's more greeny, and then he starts becoming more bluey as he evolves. Yes, he is.
And that is adding another layer of blue in order to get the original blue to a slightly more Ivysaur blue. Once I've got the blue body I want, I'll add some more blue in the form of little triangles and diamonds scattered haphazardly around his body before painting his mouth red, his tongue pink, and his teeth white. Then I can finally focus all my love and attention on giving him...
I don't feel like he made the tongue very pink. That looks still like red to me.
Those big, adorable Ivysaur eyes.
Aww.
Then, same as we've done for the Venusaur before him, I'll drill 4 little holes in his back so I can stick some wire in place to mount my leaves, which, now that I think about it, given that Ivysaur is Ivysaur, and ivy that makes you soar is poison ivy, and Ivysaur is a poison Pokemon, this really ought to be poison ivy leaves. But instead, we're going to go with poison ferns.
Poison ferns.
To make poison ferns blooming garlic bulb, I'll use the same pink I made the coconut toad's palm fronds out of, rolling it into a shape similar to the garlic frog's bulb, but this time, to make it a little bit more flower-like, I'm going to swirl the center and add some petals. Then I'll add a tiny baby tree trunk to the center of my poison fern fronds before jamming the pink garlic bulb in place.
Did Ivysaur ever have a little tree trunk coming out of him? I thought it was just the pink flower. Huh. Bulbasaur is a cat turtle. Yeah! It's a cat frog. He's a frog. He's a frog. I think I prefer Ivysaur out of the trio. I like Ivysaur's design and looks a lot better. Because it's a good in-between of Bulbasaur and Venusaur, but it's not as ugly as a Venusaur, and it has more color and vibe to it than Bulbasaur does. But I could have sworn Ivysaur didn't have a little tree thingy coming out of it yet. Huh. I thought it was just the pink flower.
Finally, I'll wrap the bulb in a little green clay to join the bulb in the brown base, and then it's on to making the actual base.
Now I need to look up a picture
Now,
of
up until this
Bulbasaur.
point, I really didn't have any idea how I was going to make the base, but I knew it needed to be thematic to our trio of garlic toads. The problem, though, was that while the Chad Lizard had an obvious fire-themed base, and the Cannon Tortoise had an obvious water-themed base, making something that was appropriately garlicky turned out to be a bit trickier than I had hoped.
Garlicky.
Eventually, though, I settled on the most recurring theme that I could think of: vines. Now, I figured vines are a pretty important part of the Bulbasaur evolution, and they tend to whip those things around all willy-nilly, and I want to get in on that action. Of course, there's no way that I could get the big chunky blue tree toad to bounce on some little vines, so I'm going to have to make them a proper base. And I thought, maybe instead of a vine, why not make it a tree trunk? Which leads us to what you're looking at now, which is me suddenly deciding to make whatever it is I was making into a tree by adding little limbs around the bottom of the base. Now, I often talk about...
Yeah, I like that idea, having it being a big tree theme, not just vines. But I wonder if he's going to add any vines to it also. Do it for the vine.
how I don't have much of a plan going into these things, and while that's generally true, I think this takes the cake as far as the old I have no idea what I'm going to do approach goes, and I think it ends up being one of my favorites. By rolling the ball stylus randomly along the surface of the clay in one direction, I was able to add a pretty convincing looking bark texture, and then by rolling concentric circles in the ball...
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of an Ivysaur. It doesn't have a starting of the little tree thing coming. Or does he? Wait, Pokemon Go. Oh, maybe he does. Yeah, I'll take Pokemon Go as a good resource. It's just not very noticeable, I guess. Yeah, especially because in most art I see of Ivysaur, you never get to look down into the core. And it always, I guess it's all hidden by the leaves, and all I see is the flower bulb. The anime and card may have shown more detail. The cat, frog, Bulbasaur.
bottom section, I was able to get a pretty great looking tree stump.
Ooh, swirly.
I made a few choice cuts here and there to add a little bit of texture to the bark, but I decided against going heavy-handed in the detail since I think the softer texture matches the Pokemon style a little bit better. Then the whole thing gets a once-over with a dark brown followed by random splotches of lighter browns to add a bit of variation.
I must say, I do still find it weird that he's painting it before it's heat treated, unless this is not paint and this is a glaze. If he's glazing it, then that makes sense to me. Or if this is a type of paint that can be fired. Twigs is my turtle tree. Aww. A Turtwig is my turtle tree. Yeah. Turtwig.
Then I painted the center of the stump as well as all the little broken branches with a much lighter khaki color before giving everything a few different dry brushes to highlight some of the edges. Looking at it now, I kinda wish I'd given the whole thing a once over with a matte varnish though, since it's kinda sweaty looking. Now, Venusaur will be standing on the bottom and Ivysaur will be jumping off the end of the branch, but I needed somewhere to put Bulbasaur.
Yeah, the shininess in the texture does make it look like it's wet. Well, you can pretend that it's a rainy day. It's a rainy day tree. Yeah.
So I drilled a couple of holes and made a few Bulbasaur-sized leaves to stick out of the branches. Then I rolled out a couple extra long, extra wormy dealies and wrapped them around the tree, acting as even more vines. Then I added little green leaves to the vines, and to break up the brown of the stump, I added a bit of choice weeds sticking out of the cracks, as well as a few white blobs of clay that will be my
Bling.
Vi subscribed to the channel.
Thank you for subscribing. Welcome.
conks.
Oh, little
Finally,
mushies.
because it was a little two-toned, I added some little pink flowers with the leftover clay. Then once everything had been baked and locked in place, I gave all the green parts a slew of green highlights and dry brushes. I painted my conchs with a beige top, then painted my mushrooms red before finally putting my trio in place.
Pause for laughing.
Otherwise, with all three where they need to be, we're
Ooh,
on
that
the
fits
glamour
so
shots.
nice. And the finished product. I love the Ivysaur little jumping. Bulbasaur just chilling there all cute.
As always, a huge thank you to the support of those on Patreon who help keep this channel churning out weekly videos for your consumption. And of course, a huge shout out to my newest patrons, Amaryllis, Saren500, Nina Iglinski, Mike Yencha, Haruka Saito, Alyssa Heron, King of the Mushan, Luke Carey, The Lapis Lagomorph, Adrian Sato, Lost Her Sheep, Red Dragon.
I love this. I love people who do sculptures like this, especially ones that seem like they're defying gravity. That could probably be pushed in a teeny bit more, but other than that, yeah, this is beautiful. I just love it. It's so gorgeous. You know, cried. Sorry, I'm on 2 hours of sleep. Oh, no, you're fine. What's wrong? You should probably go to bed then. Tree starts out at green at first, but turn brown or black gray the more years go by. Right. True. You know. Spells these to his Patreons. Oh, cool. He sells them to like some kind of auction perhaps. That's a fun idea.
Lydia M, Kevin Kirk Haley, and Rich FX. It's your help that's turning this little frog of a channel into a terrifying, wordy, tree-carrying.
Wow, I'm guessing this is some of his other ones. Ooh, I love that. That's beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for suggesting this video. Bye! Thank you all for joining me. Please like, subscribe, and comment. It would make me very happy. Kiss, kiss, hug, hug.